How would you like a technique to expose a totalitarian no matter how well disguised they really are? If so, stick with me, I'll explain how in just a minute. Alright, I've been inspired by a few recent episodes of the Path to Liberty podcast, or video streaming thing that happens twice a week. Michael Bolden and the 10th Amendment Center are some of the most brilliant and subtly subversive people that you can find these days, pushing for smaller government and government limited in principle, if such a thing happens to be possible. Now, this particular example is going to be mostly tailored toward the United States situation, right? But and of course, if you're anything like me, whenever someone starts to talk about the Constitution, you get a little bit of that Lysander Spooner indignant feeling going on. Well, I didn't sign anything, right? But if you would like, set that indignation, which is justified, set that aside for a moment and join me in a little bit of a thought experiment that hopefully you'll find useful. So, setting Spooner aside for the moment, does the Constitution authorize a limited government or an unlimited one? Or was it intended to authorize a limited government or an unlimited one? Now, one of the big motivations for the American Revolution was the Intolerable Acts, right? Britain basically said that they may bind the colonies in all cases whatsoever. And when the Constitution was being written and attempted to be and being ratified, even the Federalists, like Hamilton, argued strongly that the Constitution was to authorize a limited government. Whether they succeeded or failed or not is something we can argue about. But the intention, or at least the goal, and it wouldn't have passed if it had been, a government that can bind you in all cases whatsoever. I think people can all agree that even if it was a front, that the front was to have a constitution to authorize a limited government. Now, if you've been watching 10th Amendment Center's Path to Liberty videos, you're going to have tons of sources and stuff like that. I'm not here to do an argument with lots of sources today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make a logical argument as to why certain interpretations of a body of laws or something must be rejected by someone who believes that the government is in principle limited, and by that statement show that the people who do not reject those arguments are in fact totalitarians. So here we go. Now, if you think the Constitution authorized or was intended to authorize a limited government, regardless of what it's become, here's the trick. If you believe that, you must reject the validity of any argument that would give it unlimited power. Now, in the U.S. Constitution, there are the three most common arguments, which are the General Welfare Clause, interstate commerce, and the Necessary and Proper Clause. All three of these have been interpreted in ways which give the government unlimited power. Now, the problem with this, of course, is that if any part of a constitution is interpreted in a way or means that the government has unlimited power, then the Constitution as a whole cannot actually be a limited government, cannot establish a limited government. If there is a body that has the power to do something vague, and then it also has the sole ability to decide the requirements or criteria for that vague thing, regulate interstate commerce, necessary and proper, general welfare. If those decisions are made by the body itself, then you have an unlimited government, whether or not people actually believe or, say it out loud. This goes along with one of Locke's very most important principles that he gets to even before he starts making mistakes about the powers of the state. Locke's principle is that no man be his own judge, and if a body, call it Congress, has the ability to judge the limits of its own powers to any significant degree, then you have an unlimited government, one that is totalitarian in principle, if not yet in practice. Because any person believing that a government must be limited, believing a government to be limited in principle, must reject all such arguments. And, of course, for different governments with different constitutions or different, sets of laws, you can take that same principle and say that if someone, and observe that if someone says something that effectively gives the government unlimited power, that they are, in effect, a totalitarian, whether they're an unwitting dupe or a real danger. Anyone who makes such an argument is a Lenin or a Mussolini in principle, if not yet in practice. And so this is the principle, this is the idea that I wanted to get across in this video. If you believe that a government is limited in principle, whatever government it happens to be, you cannot see as valid any arguments as to documents or customs or traditions that would therefore give that government unlimited power. We can see from the General Welfare Clause that the idea of a general welfare, or even a common defense, is vague enough that Congress can say, well, this is for the general welfare, and if they're the people who decide what is the general welfare, well, then you've got a problem there. Same way if you've got the Interstate Commerce Clause. If the Interstate Commerce Clause is interpreted in such a way that it applies to anything that may possibly affect any commerce that might someday be interstate, and if that judgment is made by the people making the regulations, then you have an unlimited government. If necessary and proper simply means convenient, well, the government can do anything and say that that thing that it's doing is convenient. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. I thought that was a little fun one. I will put some links to the 10th Amendment Center Path to Liberty videos that inspired this short video in the description. If you are not following them and you like anything that I do, you are probably missing out, because Michael Bolden is an excellent orator and does excellent research twice a week to bring these things out with primary and secondary sources. Anyway, if you like what I'm doing with the channel, if you want to support things, you know what to do. Links in the description as usual, all that good stuff. Anyway, it is Friday, and so I hope you all have a good weekend, and, well, see if you can find it a little bit easier to find totalitarians these days. Have a good one.